Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Dennis, thanks for coming on the Rad Dads Show. I'm going to start the way we always do by asking, who are you?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm Dennis Casey, electric guitar player for Flogging Molly.
Okay. So Flogging Molly, and you've been in Flogging Molly for like about 20 years or so?
Over
Is that
20
right?
years.
Okay.
Yeah, over 20 years.
Okay.
Almost 25.
Yeah. Well, you guys must be kind of coming up on that 25th.
Yeah,
25th
97,
anniversary.
97 the band started.
Okay.
So yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting. So
Yeah.
Flogging Molly for a long time, but you're also a dad.
I am a dad. I have a dad of 4 kids.
Okay. Are you able to share their names, ages?
Yeah, I have Violet is I'll go from youngest to oldest. Violet
Sure.
is 9, Della is 11, James is 13, Donna is 16.
Okay. So wow. So you're in like the preteen and teenager kind of era of parenting
Yeah,
with almost all your kids, right? So I guess Violet's the youngest at 9, but kind of
right.
getting there. So
Yeah.
okay. So where were you sort of when you became a dad? Where were you in your career?
Um, I'm I had I had kids later in life, so I was in California. We had got married, and I knew I wanted to have kids right away. You meet the right person, it
Yep.
just kind of clicks. And so when you mean where was I?
I guess
Um,
like in the trajectory of the band, what was kind of going on at that time?
okay. So we were 2004, so it's probably almost 10 years into it. I think it was like 7 or 8 years into the band. And
And
I had met my wife at a show, and
oh, that's cool.
yeah, it was and then we, it's funny, I just got a cell phone the day I met her. So
Okay.
we didn't have any of that uncomfortable dating kind of stuff. We just got to know each other.
Yep.
And then then we started having children.
The rest is history, eh?
Yeah.
So were others I guess were others in the band, were they already parents?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave was he was a parent early in life. He had a child when he was really young, I think 18 or something like that.
Okay.
Then Matt had a child, then Nathan, and then I did, and then it just all started.
Yeah.
It
So
was
you guys
funny how it all happens. It all seemed to happen at a similar time.
that's kind of good though, right? Like I've also talked to some musicians or artists or whoever who maybe they have kids and kind of nobody else in their band or whoever they work with had kids, and so that can create a bit of tension or whatever at that time.
Yeah,
But it sounds like that wasn't the case for you guys.
well, I could totally relate to this situation, and I'll tell you why. So,
Okay.
everything sort of happened later in my life. So I got in the band, and we were touring, and I was just living the dream. And I never thought of having kids at all. Dave's son was I had met him. He was like, I think 18, or he was pretty much an adult.
Yep.
But then Matt had a son, and I remember, and I always talk to him about this, how he would talk about him, look at pictures, and I had no, I mean, I understood it, but I just didn't have that connection.
Yep.
And I wanted to go out and have fun and do all kinds of things, and he would think about the son, and it would factor into a lot of things and what he was going to do, etc. And the second I had a child, it hit me.
Yeah.
I think I called him the same day. I was like, holy shit, that all makes sense to me now. What you were saying, what you were doing. And it was never really like a conflict. It was just I thought I understood, but I didn't understand at all until I finally had a child.
People, it's kind of a cliche, right? Like people say, oh, you don't know what it's like having kids until you have one. And I mean, there's totally truth to that, right? Like how
Yeah,
that changes you.
Yeah, me and my kids were talking about, what is it, cliche truth, or why is it called a cliche? Anyways, I'm
Yeah.
not that smart to know the difference, but we were talking, another cliche is they'll grow, time goes by fast.
Yep.
Yeah, they'll grow up so fast. And holy cow, that one was totally true.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you look back on, like just the other day, our neighbors came by, and they have a kind of newborn, brand new baby, and it was like, oh man, like the emotions kind of come flooding back. So I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and
Okay.
so we're not long past that phase of little babies, but
Yeah.
it's amazing how it does fly, and you kind of
Yeah.
almost forget all those things you went through and those emotions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we have the same. I have neighbors on each side that have little babies, and yes, I think I do get baby fever every once in
A
a
little
while.
bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to control yourself there. So okay, so that's really interesting. So you guys kind of, we're kind of having kids at sort of the same time and kind of experiencing some of those feelings together, and how you approach, I mean, it changes your schedule and things like that. Did you have fears about becoming a dad? Were you kind of nervous at all
No,
about it?
not at
Okay.
all. Well, yeah, no, not at all. I was, like I was talking about Matt. I got to hang out with his son. He came on tour with us a couple times.
Cool.
Nathan had a child before I did, and it just felt like it was right for me, and everything just, yeah, I wasn't afraid at all. Now after the child appeared into the world, how do you hold it? What do you do? That all just blew my mind. That, I had more fear about that. That slowly goes away too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember you were talking about how I remember scheduling like tours. That was another thing with Matt. Like, and I would see his face get like sad, and I would be, oh my, I had no reason to be home.
Right.
There was, there was nothing there for me. And I was like, I just want to be on the road and seeing the world. And I didn't completely understand his emotional toll it would take on him, because we toured a lot back then.
Yeah, and I guess depending on your situation too, I mean, takes an emotional toll on you, and then also, whatever your family situation is at home, if you have a partner,
Yeah, this
takes
is
a toll on,
pre-FaceTime.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Pre-FaceTime. I don't even know if we all had cell phones back then. Yeah, we didn't have cell phones, so
Yeah, so it's
a lot
difficult.
harder. Yeah.
So I guess so you weren't really worried about becoming dad. That was in the plan for you. You felt I guess confident about that going
Yeah.
into it. Obviously there's kind of that like shock, of the initial shock of everything that changes. Did anything change about you after becoming a father?
Yeah, it all seems to center around the moment it happened. Like, so much insignificant things in your life just fall away.
Yeah.
And how yourself, like, what you think about is completely flushed into the abyss. It doesn't even matter anymore. And all your decisions, all your thoughts are now incorporated with this little person that you've made.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a switch flipping a little bit, hey?
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
It's a switch, maybe a light switch and all the, or whatever. But I remember all the maybe silly things I was thinking about, or I just remember being like, this is what really matters.
Yeah.
This is so, it just felt so real and right in what life was about for me at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting how you kind of realize, like, why the hell was I worried about that or that, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is what's really important here.
Yeah, and then you also import about 5 times as many new worries. They
Right.
also take over
That's
all
true.
the ones you had. There's no time for
them. This is the Rad Dad Show. Do you consider yourself a rad dad?
them. I don't know. I don't think about myself that way, I guess. I don't. Rad. I don't- um,
Well,
Sometimes I try to be the best dad I can.
okay.
Yeah, I guess that means rad. I thought rad was always like cool and like awesome, but
Well, it depends how you define it.
yeah. I
We
mean, I
kind
do my
of,
best.
yeah, we purposely sort of leave that definition open. That's why we ask it. What does it mean? Some people will say, well, yeah, like I'm in a band, I tour, whatever. That's rad. That's cool. Or I'm a
Yeah.
skateboarder or whatever it is. And I like to do that with my kids. Other people will, it's all about, like you said, trying to be the best dad you can be. A lot of people talk about kind of being present with their kids or things like that. So what, if you were putting a definition out there, what's a rad dad? What are those traits that make someone a rad dad?
Um, well, I guess that there are the being in a band and all that can make you rad, I guess, in other people's eyes, but in my own eyes, it's just me. And to my kids, I'm just me. I don't think they realize anything about the band or anything like that until someone else, like a teacher or somebody else, will acknowledge it. They don't know any different, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, a rad dad would be a father who's just doing his best and there for his children when as much as they can be.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think that definition of what's a rad dad, that's internal. It's what's important to you about that relationship as a parent. That's how I see it. So you kind of mentioned, I guess, your kids and what they think about the band. You said it's kind of just as probably, is it just your job? Is that how they sort of see it? That's
I
my dad's job.
I think yeah. I don't ask them. I think that's the way they just they don't like it, when they meet people. I don't tell them my dad's in a band, and like it takes a while for it to come up, and then a lot of teachers will tell me this. I mean, they're older now, but yeah, I didn't know for like almost the whole year that you're in this band that I grew up with and I
That's cool.
love, and your kid didn't say anything about it.
Right. That's so funny. Hey.
Yeah, they have to be asked, it seems, but they don't. I don't think they. Yeah, they don't see it as. I don't think they know any different. Sometimes, like if we'll I'll go somewhere with them at a school event. I do maybe not look like all the other dads. Maybe if I lived in Southern California, I would, or somewhere
Right.
like that. But I don't know about where you live. Dads can be a little more conservative and all that.
Yep.
Um,
So
they
so
might
you
think, wow, he's pretty cool.
yeah, I know what you mean by that. Like, I mean, I think some of this stuff, rock and roll keeps people young, right? Like,
Yeah, I think my son is realizing that more when he sees, maybe we'll see other fathers. Not all fathers are that way, but
no,
I think when they think of my age, and then I'll meet somebody my same age, um, who just maybe we'll say given up and doesn't really. Yeah, I agree with you. Rock and roll keeps you young in a certain way, and I don't know how else to put that, but I think he sees that sometimes.
is it rock and roll, or is it like or is rock and roll just what it is for you? But is it more like I guess your individuality? You kind of have this, I guess, this thing in your life that you're really passionate about. Like, I guess maybe my question is, how important is that to you to have your own things as a parent? Whether it's playing rock and roll, or whether it's you're on the local hockey team or baseball team or something, and you kind of have your own time and your own space. How important is that to you?
Um, I think it's a balance I still struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the idea of being a musician and keeping you young, it also can wear people out pretty quickly too.
That's true.
And so I guess, it's hard to say, but I think it's I don't know what it is. I think it's there's a certain freedom and a certain uh, something about being creative in your life, something
Mm-hmm.
about making something and connecting with so many people, and you get to feel the reaction, like when you're on tour and you're playing a live show. That is, I don't know, I don't know many professions that have something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's all great, but then to meet somebody who your music has like helped them through life or meant so much to them, that kind of reward to me is priceless, and it just keeps my passion and my heart into, music is my great, my thing. I don't do many other things in life, and I think there's something to say for that, and how it you can go out and affect people, and it's inspiring. And to be inspired so much, I consider myself very lucky, very fortunate. I don't ever take this for granted, and I think that's part of what may keep people the way, in the rock and roll world the way they are.
Yeah, you kind of, I saw you initially kind of almost struggling with that question. You mentioned something about like trying to find that balance.
Oh,
so how do you find that balance between, I guess, like what your responsibilities are with the band and what you want to do with the band, and then your home life? How do you make that work?
Yeah, that's so lately it's sort of flipped after COVID. So
Interesting.
When before I used to, when I would go on tour, that would be that's what I would do. And we all grew up, or my kids grew up with, that's the way things were. So I didn't really think about, well, I can't do this tour because I haven't had enough balance at home. It was the way that I made a living, the way I took care of everybody financially in my family. And they, like, I keep going back to this one thought, and I'm wondering why. Like, they don't know any different, because this is the way it's always been.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get easier. But I will say, when I'm home, I like to be home. Now, for instance, we just made a record last month, and I got home from making a record, and I prepared for it. I had to write ideas. So I just picked my times, and I've learned through having 4 kids how to be, I think, your time is very valuable. So when you can get it, or if you can work it in somehow, this circles back to social media too. I don't have a lot of time to I don't watch TV anymore. I don't do things like that, because when I have time for me, I generally am, I'll use it playing music or doing something with music. So that's basically how I would strike that balance. And something's always got to give. And what I was going to say about, like, when COVID hit, and then I lost, everybody in the music industry now, most everybody lost their job. My wife went back to work. She wasn't working before. She was staying a stay-at-home mom.
That's a big change.
Yeah. So now I have totally become, when I have time off, a homemaker, and I have a lot of respect for homemakers, and the things you have to do, the mundaneness of everyday life. And
so what's that adjustment been like?
It's been difficult. The one thing that I always come back to is you just got to you don't have any time. You just got to let that go.
Yes.
I don't have any time. I just have to, and I found it easier to be like, I don't have time to go out. I don't have time to do a lot of things. That's the commitment I made. I want to be a rad dad. So I'm going to do the best I can, be here. And, whether it's my son likes to run now, so I'll run with him, or if it's helping with homework, or I make, feeding 6 people a day is a new thing for me. Having to make food, clean up, laundry, all those kind of things is a complete change for me. And you just got to kind of put what you want to do, or what you want to achieve, you have to put it aside, and you have to be creative and find ways of making it happen, making it work. I used to, and I learned how to. My electric guitar was the one thing I could play late at night. After everybody went to bed, I had a little time. I would do that, and then my wife is a nurse, so she worked crazy hours. She'll have to wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. So I got to be really quiet now. So that's another story. But I think the whole thing is time management. It's funny. I was talking to my wife and friends that have kids. I was like, there's guys in the band that don't have any kids, and I was like, man, how do they? I can't even remember. How would I fill my? What would I?
What do you do all day?
Yeah, what do you do? Like, you get to wake up when you want, which I think that's got to be totally awesome.
Yeah,
like an alarm clock not waking you up. That's got to be great. Your kid, one of your kids is in school.
Yeah, so my oldest is in grade 1.
So you have I have to get up, get them ready.
Lunch
Not
pack.
a 16-year-old. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I gotta. Who doesn't like what?
Right.
I kind of remember this is a dad's podcast because I was like, am I going on too much about everyday life?
No, this is
what I mean. I'm used to band interviews. Anyways, so I digress. So finding the time is important, and I think that it's the only it's all I'm left with right now, and I just learned to have to do that. That was the balance I was trying to strike. Like I would sleep maybe 4 hours a night because I wanted to stay up late to do something with music, and I was like, it wore me down really quickly.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't as present. I wasn't as there, I guess, for my kids, and
you got to take care of yourself too.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself. The sleep deprivation. I think every parent, to go back to our cliche, sleep deprivation is a real thing.
It is.
If you don't take it seriously, it will kick your ass, and it'll catch up to you. And all the coffee in the world isn't gonna help it.
It helps, but it's not enough.
Yeah, eventually, it's So as time goes on and all these changes I've made, I found that I just have to be creative, because like to read a book even. Yeah. I share this with people. How do you read a book? You have 4 kids. I consume. I get 3 versions of it. I get the audio version, I get the real version, I get the e-version.
Yep.
If I'm waiting for them at school, I could pop up the ebook
on your phone.
Listen to that, and then on the way home I can continue listening to. You have to just be creative with your time.
Yep.
Or I have to be creative with my time if I want to do things.
No, I think that's a really good point. Like that's probably I would say one of the hardest things as a parent is getting used to fitting it all in, right? And so whether you have 1 child or you have 6 children, like it's tough. It's really tough. And I relate to what you said about homemakers. Like I took 3 months, so only 3 months of parental leave with my second daughter.
Okay.
And like that was just like an amazing adjustment for me. It was really hard. Mm-hmm. It felt like I've got 1 child I'm looking after here. Like, why can't I get anything done in the day? Like, I could barely get out of my pajamas, like just trying to feed them and keep them entertained and get some laundry done or whatever it is. It's hard. That's one of the hardest jobs, I think. Home with the kids.
Oh, it's by far one of the hardest jobs. This is all, if you want to be a rad dad, I think, there's just a lot to do. There's a lot. And besides all the things that need to be done just to get them, cleaned, fed, and clothed, there's all the things as a parent you're trying to teach them.
Yeah.
You're trying to show them things, and you're trying to make their child be there for them and be there with them, instead of just a fixture in the corner, and they do their thing, I do my thing.
Right. Yeah, you want to give them experiences, and Yeah, have them learn about the world and,
Yeah.
go places like, try and get a kid ready to get in the car and go somewhere. That's a feat in and of
Oof.
itself, right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Are your kids, are they interested in music? Do any of them kind of play music or
Yeah.
anything like that?
Yeah. I had this thing. When I first had my first child, it was like forgive my science experiment. I was like, or hack, my life hack. I'm like, I am going to show this child music.
Yeah.
Like you only have one, so you got all the time. I was like, so I was so committed to be like, music is going to be part of her life.
Yep.
And I would play just what I would think would be great music, all the classics, even classical music,
Yep.
Bach, and then I play, the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin, Nirvana, Radiohead. And I would always, I would always have this music, but with her particularly, I would sit and listen to her with her. And in the car, we would, eventually she knew all the Beatles songs. She would, want to sing the Beatles songs together, and which was great. But then you're like, oh my God, she wants to sing the same song 100 times, like you can do when you're a kid. I've already heard it a million times. And anyway, so she's really talented. She started wanting to play the drums. She plays the drums.
Cool.
And then she has a good musical ear. She taught herself piano, xylophone, ukulele, guitar. She'll learn Chopin music pieces on the piano, and then she'll try to play, she plays drums to like Nirvana or Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
She plays in the school band. So she's really well-rounded musically. My son, he plays the trombone, which I thought, wow,
Okay.
that's great, but I can't really, I can't, it just doesn't.
Hard to jam at home with.
I have tried a few times with him, but he learned from school, so he's very
Yep.
much, you got to put the music in front of him. Having said that, he's gotten a lot better at like learning by ear.
Yep.
So I see him progressing with that, but he plays the
Cool.
trombone. Then my Della, she does chorus in school, and
Okay.
she messed around with the violin. And then my youngest one, Violet, she likes to sing, but she writes a lot. She writes songs.
Oh, that's cool.
She's really, I think, really, for her age, she's good at it. And I try to encourage her to keep doing that. But I've always left my instruments all around the house.
Yep.
So the guitars, and I'm not precious about them. They could stay, when they're little, they could stand on them and make noises with them. And I wanted them to experience that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like, I think giving them the space to explore.
Yeah,
Right?
I didn't want to be like at 3 you're going to start violin, and then we're going to give you piano lessons and like that. I just wanted them to play what they like.
Yeah.
But I have heard people say, I wish my parents gave me piano lessons when I was younger.
I think like every musician, or at least a lot of guitar players, I'm a guitar player, you can see, but
okay.
That's what I say too. Geez, I wish I had piano lessons. But at the same time, all my friends who had piano lessons when they were kids, it's just not as it's not as fun an instrument. If you're into, I guess, like rock and roll and stuff, it's way easier to sit and strum a guitar, at a party or whatever, not a piano. So a lot of my friends never kept with it. But in hindsight, you're like, oh, I wish I had that theory, right?
Yeah, because as a kid, you absorb things so readily.
Yeah.
I was going to say that. So I have a lot of my amplifiers and guitars at home, and I do try to show my kids. I just sometimes feel like kid when I'm like, I'll hook up my whole Marshall stack, and I'll be like, there is nothing like playing like an E chord or an A chord in front of this amp.
Yeah.
You're not going to get it on the piano or whatever. And
right.
My daughter, my oldest, is the only one who's kind of taken that route. She actually formed a band this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, she's really into it.
So do you guys kind of jam at home and stuff?
We have once in a while. She's super like me, very busy. We will once in a while, but she's super into academic part of school as well.
Okay.
He's kind of all over the place with doing things.
Well, like teenagers and kind of preteens, that's the time when people are busy, right? You have activities, friends, whatever, school's busy. They're probably not around home that much.
No, she's not. She's got a lot of homework, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. Just if she wanted to play all the, a lot more, I would. But I don't want to force myself on her band either.
Right.
I don't want to be like, I can come to practice and help you guys. I just want, if they, she wants to ask me about it or whatever, but I want them to have their own, I don't want to be overbearing, or if they want to ask me questions or do whatever, I'll help. But if not, I'll just drive her to and from the rehearsal.
Right. Yeah. It's like, they probably don't even realize they've got this amazing resource at their fingertips, right? Like, this guy knows how to do it.
Yeah. I don't want to tell them that, but when I think back when I was her age, whenever I got to talk to anybody who played music, I was just probably annoyed them with a million questions I would ask them. But she's having fun with it. They're having fun with it. They're writing songs. They're consistently rehearsing. So I'm just proud that she's doing it.
Supportive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you able to talk about your relationship with your dad, Dennis?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess growing up, like what was that relationship like? And where I sort of like to go with this question is, as a parent, do you do you consciously think about, I guess, what your relationship was with your dad growing up and how that maybe applies to your parenting now?
Oh yeah. There's a lot to what you just brought up. But I think about this after having children. I understand my father way more than I used to. It's almost, to your analogy, a switch goes off.
Yeah.
And I was like, it all makes sense now. So he was a carpenter. Didn't do much else, worked all the time, very handy with things, worked on cars, built things. He was always doing something, whether it's remodeling the house, putting a roof on the house, putting a transmission in a car. He was always doing something like that. And he worked out. I live in the Northeast, Rochester, New York. So he worked outside almost all the time. So he was exposed to the elements on a regular basis, I would say. Anyways, he didn't have the easiest job, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And he didn't, his father died when he was I think 4. So he didn't really have a father growing up.
Yeah.
So anyways, he would work a lot, and I was the only son, I would get, dragged into holding a wrench.
Hold this wrench, or hold the flat. Yeah, exactly.
And we're talking somebody who did not take the car to get it fixed. He fixed it. So if the muffler came off in the middle of winter, you're lying under the car.
Yeah, in the snow or whatever.
Doing that, right? And it's like, I'm going to answer this in a long way. You could cut me off if I'm too long, but
no, this is great.
Okay, so having grown up that way from probably till by the time I could hold a flashlight, I was holding a flashlight, and probably being blamed for most of the things that went wrong.
Right.
Probably because I didn't want to be there, and I was talking, or anyways. So I remember, always having to go out and help him or do all these things. And, I found music as a teenager, and that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll give you an example. My father would bang on the wall, tell me to stop playing all the time.
Yeah.
Like all the time. Because I would play all the time. He didn't have to tell me to practice. And, I used to get mad, and I used to make me upset, or come on down, I need you to help me. And we clashed. And as time went on, I just, I think that was part of, I left home and et cetera. And then I moved out to California and then got in the band, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't really do anything together. I'm going back now to like, we worked in the garage together, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was kind of stuff that needed to be done around the house.
Yeah. We're talking old school dad. We didn't like,
Yep.
we didn't go to movies or anything. And at the end, so after I have kids, and I was like, my God, he would come home from working outside all day. Of course he didn't have it in him to do anything. It kind of makes sense to me in that way.
Yeah.
And I realized a lot, and his, not having a father figure.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I was like, there's no one to
model,
to emulate. I don't know if you notice yourself turning into your father every once in a while, but
totally.
I sure do. And it's like, worse, how can I'm not even in control of it almost sometimes. And him not having that, I thought that was interesting.
And it was also a different time then too, from like just in a general social perspective, right? In terms of what was normal. Like that's I think that's a pretty common experience with kind of dads around that time too. It's like dad provides and, focused on fixing things up around the house, and, you don't talk about your feelings really. And like some of those types of things, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's different now.
Oh yeah. Feelings? No. He was tough as nails kind of guy.
Yeah.
I have this photo above my door. I'll tell this story too. He came home one day from work, and he had been, I don't know what he's doing, but he was filthy, and his hands were all cracked and dirty. And I was like, can I take a picture of your hands? And he thought I just lost my mind.
How old were you?
I was a teenager, probably 18 or 19.
Okay.
Or maybe my early 20s. Don't remember exactly, but back then. And he just was like, what? Why do you want to take a picture of my, like, he's come home every day, wash his hands, right? No, before you wash your hands, I want to take a picture. And I took a picture of them, and I keep it, and I have it framed, and I keep it above my door. Wow. And I've done it since then as a reminder of where I came from, and all the things that represents. And I tell my kid, I've told a lot of people about it. I told my kids about it. We've made a movie called Whiskey on a Sunday. I talk about it. And we wrote a song called The Hand of John L. Sullivan, and we used that image for the single we made.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. So those are my father's hands. And that simple moment that he didn't understand still to me is very special. And it's an actual photograph too. Obviously it was taken way back in the, when is that, in the 80s. And it means a lot to me, and that's why I hang it over my door, so I can see it when I leave. And I've had it there so every place I've lived. And
what does that like when you walk out the door and you see that photo as you walk out the door, what does that say to you, or what does that do for you?
Probably
hard to put into words.
It could be I mean, it's different all the time. It could be different, and it could be maybe. And my father has passed away since, so I mean, it makes me remind me of him. Mm-hmm. It'll show me humility, where I came from.
Yeah.
How meaningless sometimes things are, and like just the salt of the earth, the working with your hands is meaningful too. I was going to talk about that. So later on in our life, when I got in the band is when I really developed a great relationship with my father.
Okay.
And it was actually it was so wonderful, because I think we both realized a lot about each other. And I was living in California. He was here. So we weren't together for, I didn't live with him or see him for years at a time sometimes.
Right.
But when I finally got in the band, he saw, I think it just kind of, something changed in him, but not everything. He traveled more. He came out and saw me. He would come to shows. There would be, I'll never forget this, like probably the biggest show at the time we played. He was there. It was his birthday. And I think Dave got everybody sing happy birthday. Thousands of people sing happy birthday to him. And we played this great show. And I was like, yeah, we were having a beer after. And I was like, Dad, wasn't that great? I mean, how awesome was that? And he was like, that was pretty good. Okay. And like, he was never like, oh my God, that was great. Cheers. And like, it's like, you guys are pretty good. So there was always that level, that kind of reaction from him. But I could tell, I mean, everybody in the band started like having him around. So he would, do a few shows with us. So we got really close. And I've often told Dave that it kind of, we had this second half of our lives where we had a great relationship. We enjoyed each other a lot more. I understood, like, he wasn't working maybe in the garage or on the house. That was his way of creating something, making something, doing something.
That's I was gonna kind of mention that. You kind of said that earlier, like that creativity and making something.
I didn't realize that until until later in life for some reason. But I was like, he wasn't. He shrouded it or said it in that I have to do this work because I have to. But I think what he was doing was making something. The house that he built, the house in the garage and all that from by himself, basically.
Right.
It's still there. So he's made something that somebody is enjoying living in, and it's there still.
It's kind of a talked about this before. I can't remember who I was talking to, but talked about this before, that it's kind of a shame that sometimes that happens, that we don't develop that relationship with our parents, or maybe appreciate them, or they don't appreciate us, or whatever it is, until later in life. And you kind of look back and it's like, oh, I wish I had kind of gotten it then. Obviously you can't go back and change it, but I feel the same way about the relationship with my dad. Like, I've developed a friendship with him as an adult, have fun together and just hanging out or whatever. You kind of see eye to eye, and whether that's because you have kids and shared experience there, or it's just, I don't know what it is, but you look back and it's like, oh, there was some time there that, feels almost wasted,
Oh my God. Yeah, wait, I completely agree. I was all wasted in different ways too, because now I think I could have learned so much from this guy.
Right.
Like, he knew how to fix a car. He knew how to fix anything in a house, plumbing, electrical. And I could care less. I just wanted to go back and play my guitar, but I was like, how stupid of me. I could have.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do certain, some things, but he knew how much I love music. He would also keep me at a certain distance too. He'd be like, well, I don't want you doing this because you'll cut your finger off or something like that.
Right. Oh, okay.
But, he didn't want me to do that. But I will say a funny story, how we connected, or he didn't change a lot. We went and we have a record called Float, and we went to Ireland to make it. And I think I was over there a month and a half or something. We rehearsed, and then we toured, and then we made the record. And I come back home, and he calls me on the phone, and I was like, oh, this is great. He knows I'm home. He probably wants to hear the record or talk about it. And he said, can you come out? Yeah, come on over. I need a hand. That's all I usually got, is I need a hand. And it was a surprise every time. So I get to the house, and he's 72 years old at this time, and he's on the peak of the roof. And he's finishing putting the roof on the house, and it's a 2-story house. And he's like, oh, great. Start bringing the shingles up to me. I just got to the top row of the peak.
You're
And
like,
I
oh
was
my
just,
God.
I was dumbfounded, and it was a pretty steep peak. And I was just like, are you kidding me? I just got home from Ireland and you want me to carry these? A bundle of shingles is quite heavy.
Yeah.
And I started getting upset because I had, this is where I grew up. So I half my friends are carpenters and do all this kind of thing. I was like, let me call all my friends. They have a motorized thing that'll bring it
Yeah.
up to you. And so he was like, no, just bring them up to me. I'm almost done. And we were getting heated at each other. I was like, well, what if, I was started thinking, what if I fall? Like, I'm not used to putting a roof on a house.
Yeah.
And he won, obviously. So I start bringing the shingles up and I'm getting really mad. I'm slapping him down.
Yeah.
I kept saying, why don't I call, a few guys and we'll just knock it out. And this is what a dad can do to you. And he looks at me and he's like, how would you feel if they got somebody to play the guitar on that record you just made? Silence.
Interesting. Wow.
And
Mic
and I was
drop.
like, wow. I was like, yeah, mic drop. And then now bring the shingles up. And I was like, I'll never forget this story.
Yeah.
I told it at his eulogy, actually, because that was to me, that was a great moment. That was like, yeah, he's
It's that pride, right?
he had that pride, but this meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
It really opened that up to me, what he was. He did it under, I'm saving money because I could do it, but he knew how to do it and he was doing that. And he put it in a perspective I never thought. I
Yeah.
was just thinking, this is a practical thing. Put a roof on. We'll call 10 guys over and we'll have it done. And that's when he really,
Yeah. It was important to him.
yeah. And it was his way of creating something and building something and doing something for his family, saving money, all these kind of things.
Yeah. That's an amazing story.
Yeah. And I did eventually bring all the shingles up to the top.
And you got it done.
And we got it done. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Dennis, what's next for you and for Flogging Molly? You guys, you talked about you've recorded a new record.
Yeah, we made we went back to Chicago where we recorded our first two records. Worked with Steve Albini.
Okay, nice.
Electric Audio. Yeah, so we decided to go work there. We made our next record. Finished what was it? A few days before Thanksgiving, which is November, probably 22nd or 23rd. And now it's being mixed and mastered. Hopefully it'll be out early next year, maybe before St. Patrick's Day or around there. And then in March, we're gonna do a tour of the US, a little one, up to St. Patrick's Day. And then, we do this cruise every year called the Celtic Dell Cruise.
Yeah.
It sold out a while ago, which was
Awesome.
I was gonna try to think of a better word than awesome, but I can't. It was awesome to have it sell out so soon in advance. I couldn't be more proud of that and excited. And that's where it's gonna end. And then we have Europe. Now, all these things fall under this new thing called COVID. So if everything keeps going the way it's going, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
I would love to. It's been a while since we played Europe. We keep pushing those shows back another year.
Yeah.
So,
once you're talking about international travel, it just is that little bit more complicated, right?
Yeah. And I can't wait. I love touring. This has been a good, I like both. Being at home, I love touring. It's just a balance I have to try to strike. So that tour, the record will be out, and then hopefully that just kicks off a 3-4 year cycle,
right,
of touring and doing all these shows and promoting the record. And I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out or what's going to happen. Obviously, nobody does. But we did our best on the last tour we did with the Violent Femmes.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, there was restrictions and protocols, and I still got COVID.
Yeah,
So
you guys had a couple little hiccups there. Yeah.
I was one of
You
the guys that got
personally.
it.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, it was like that. We did everything we were supposed to do, and I still got it. So I don't really know. It's an unknown. I'm not. I don't think anybody knows. Like if Europe goes into another lockdown because of a new variant, I don't think we'll tour Europe. But
Right.
right now, the US and Europe are on.
Was a cruise? You guys didn't do a cruise last year, did you?
No, we didn't do it last
Has it been
year.
a couple years now? Like, was it in
We did it.
2020? Because you do it in March usually, right?
Yeah, I think in that 20 was it 2019? We did it at the in November or the end of the year, I think. I think that's what we did. That one worked out. And then yeah, the 2021 was not going to happen.
Yeah. So that'll
and
be
then,
exciting if that, hopefully that goes ahead for you guys too. That's
yeah, I mean, it seems like it's going to be because you have cruises have been happening
Yep.
all year. So it's not like this is going to be the first one
Right.
for everybody. And I think we just have to do our best to make it happen and do the right things
You
and
put all the protocols in place, and I mean, we are kind of, I feel like we're reaching a point where, like, regardless of what happens, I guess, with new variants and stuff like that, like there's more of a, I guess, a push to just, we got to figure out a way to live with it and to do whatever we can as safe as possible. I hope that goes forward for you guys. You guys have a pretty good lineup on this year's Salty Dog Cruise.
Yeah, well, I'm living and acting like it's going to happen. So
Yeah.
I mean, if something like that got canceled, that would be really unfortunate. The fact that it sold out, like, what was it, 6 months before it's happening, is a clear indication that people really want to go. That whole thing has been, I think we've done it's become its own thing, and that's people love going every year. There's a lot of people that repeat going. I in the beginning, I had no idea. I was like, this is the worst idea ever, because I'd never been on a cruise.
Yeah.
I thought people just play shuffleboard and drink pina coladas, and I didn't know anything about it.
Some are like that.
I didn't know, so I just assumed. And then when I got there, I met two. I remember I got on the boat. I met two people from Belgium. I was like, wow, this could be all right.
Yeah.
And proceeded to have an absolute great time.
Yeah.
And I tell people, give you your money back if you don't have a good time on that.
Right. I see. I mean, we talked about social media. I see when those have happened in the past, like people's pictures and comments, and it looks like so much fun.
It is. And there's like this whole network of people that are on social media. From what I understand, people tell me, and they've created their own group.
Yeah.
And it's pretty big. And I was like, wow, I didn't like, but the first one, somebody told me about that. I was like, really? There's a group of people. And ignorance is bliss, I guess. I don't know. So it's grown into this really wonderful event. We've been fortunate enough to have very, very great punk rock bands from NoFX, Rancid, Offspring. Now the Descendants are going to do it.
Yep.
I mean, these are incredible bands. So I mean, I'm honored to have something like that as a part of some little thing we created.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I hope it goes forward for you guys. I hope tour happens next year with no problems. Congrats on the new record. Can't wait to hear it.
Thank you.
Any words of advice for dads out there listening, or maybe soon to be dads? If you had to give them some advice, what to expect?
Oh yeah, soon to be dads. I would, all the cliches are true.
Yeah.
So embrace them.
As we talked about. Yeah,
embrace them. But I think an expecting dad, just don't overthink it. It's not that hard. There's a lot of stuff you can get, but sometimes you don't need all this extra stuff that you think you do.
Yeah.
I find a good little changing pad was the best thing I ever got.
Yeah, at a good height, right? So you don't get a sore back.
Yeah, that exactly. But yeah, it's advice I would give is yeah, spend this, enjoy all the moments. It's going to be hard to, because you're not going to be sleeping, but the time you have when they're that age, just embrace that. And yeah, there's so many. It's hard to say one thing because there's so many, as you know, as a dad, there's so many things you want to tell someone, but I can't say anything really profound, I guess, that hasn't already been said or that people generally hear about when you have a kid. But if I was, to give more of a realistic thing, I would say, you're gonna have to realize your time is not your own anymore.
Yep. Yeah, that's a tough transition for people, as we talked about sometimes. So
and you'll do better once you embrace that.
Yeah.
You have to make your own time.
That's right.
It's not all yours anymore.
Yeah. Often though, we're trying to wrap up, but it just made me think, like, I find in my case, I have limited time, but I actually do more with my time. You're more productive. You're more motivated to get things done with that little amount of time you have.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. And I'm not stressed for time. So if you are,
no,
sorry, I understand. But that's what I was hitting on earlier, is that it forces you to be resourceful. You don't a half hour could be a lot of time. You could get a lot done in a half hour, and if that's all you have, you could put a lot in. And I was one example I was going to give, like for this record, I was saying I would take up my time. I would know that while my kids are in school, I am playing music. It's loud in here. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to do all the musical things I can, because when they come home, they got to do homework and all that. I can't be like blasting guitar parts over and over. And so I would learn the time I had to do what I had to do, and did it. And that was that's been something as a parent you learn. And then when we think about people that have all the time, I was like, wow, no wonder you're texting mass text at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I wake up to these group texts. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Or the band, or everybody in the band will be talking about this latest TV thing, and I'll be like, I have no idea.
Yeah, just out to lunch on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just can't talk about any of that. But oh well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate your time today, Dennis. And it's been really good chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit. I know we got the holidays coming up, so time is even more precious right now. So I do appreciate you taking the time. I see we talked about your countdown calendar back there.
Kids has a countdown calendar they made.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's a wonderful time of year for a kid.
Yeah.
And we try to make that for them, or let them have that and experience it. It's been a real honor and pleasure to talk to you. If you ever want to do this again, let me know. And I will tell other people in the band. If there's several dads in our band now. So
that sounds great, for sure. Yeah, we'd love to talk to them all. So yeah, thanks again, man. I do appreciate your time and sharing some of your stories with us, some stories about your dad. Just really, really neat to hear that. So I appreciate it. And shout out to Mad Twins for kind of hooking us up here. And looking forward to seeing you guys release a new record next year, and Salty Dog Cruise and everything else that's coming after that.